Welcome to the Guaranteed Irish Business Podcast, where each week we're joined by the amazing leaders of Guaranteed Irish member businesses to chat all things business, sustainability, buying Irish, promoting Irish jobs, community, provenance, and so much more. Sponsored by FBD Insurance, Ireland's largest homegrown insurer. Support. It's what we do.
Hello and welcome to the Guaranteed Irish Business Podcast. My name is Sean Kennedy and joining me today is Derek, CEO and owner and everything of foregolf, Ireland's most comprehensive custom golf fitting service, and of course a Guaranteed Irish member. Hi Derek, how are you?
Hey Sean, thanks for having us on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very, very much for coming in. Now, the name kind of leads into what you do, but for anyone who might not be aware of the company, tell us who foregolf are, where the company came from, and what it is you do.
Yeah, so foregolf, F-O-R-E Golf, is a custom club making business. We've been around since 1997, so I've been almost half my life involved in the business. It's a family-based business. My dad is involved, my sister's involved, and my mum is nearly at the end of her tenure. She's probably going to retire soon, but everyone very much a family business. We've one other employee as well, David, who's our chief technician. We started in 97 in Naas in County Kildare. We're now based at Killeen Castle out in Dunsany, just outside Dunshaughlin in County Meath in the Royal County. And essentially what we are is we're a golf company that we measure people based on their size, shape, ability, and then we custom hand make their golf clubs from all the different brands in our own workshop. Bottom line is we're a hardware manufacturer / specialist specializing in the hand making of golf equipment.
Very good. And what inspired you to set up the company in the first place?
Yeah, I was involved in golf all my life. I worked in the K Club in County Kildare as a fresh-faced 19-year-old. I went in there to get into the business, I guess it were, primarily because I had no other interests when I left school. I was kind of a bit of a lost sheep, and golf kind of found me. I always talk about how this job or this industry, I'd always say to young people to stay open, and eventually things that you're really interested will find you, because you'll keep going back to the stuff that really interests you, and eventually it will actually kind of engage or kind of pull you in. Where I got pulled in was I was at a golf tournament in Czechoslovakia, in Mariánska Lázna, up on the foothills of Czechoslovakian mountains.
That must have been very picturesque.
There was a castle. It's mad. I still have the visions of this massive castle. You know the ones you see in the photographs, so massive castle on like a cliff top, right? And this golf course was up in the mountains. It was a phenomenal place. But I met a guy called Andy Kickadas who worked for Mizuno Golf. And they had a big truck that used to travel around to all the tournaments and have like a mobile workshop for the players to tweak clubs, build clubs, do grips, whatever. And I met Andy on that truck, and also the head of the tour there, who's since passed away. He brought me onto the truck and showed me what they were doing with all the players. So at the time there was the Nick Faldos, the Seve Ballesteros, the Bernard Langers, the Harringtons, all these guys were on the tour, and they were
making a great era for golf.
I know, stop. Yeah, that's like, yeah. I can feel the nostalgia breezing over me going back there. But they were showing me how the clubs were being built by the players, and working with the top players in the world really interested me. So that sort of hooked me, that these are the best players in the world. They're having their clubs adjusted and built. I would have thought that the skill level would supersede the club building, right? But it was the other way around. They were actually using the equipment to bolster the skill level. So the clubs were a very much important part of it, right? So I went back to Ireland to my dad, Don, who at the time, both of us were building clubs, more amateurish for normal golfers, but we wanted to kind of bring it to a next level. This is back in like 99, okay? So this is a long way before custom clubs were out there. And I decided to Dad, I'm going to get a job on the tour. And eventually through, typically Irish hook or by crook, I managed to land a job with Cleveland Golf working on the tour, and that was when I ramped up my skill set, right? So working with the best players in the world, working in a really high pressure environment, building clubs to exact tolerances, and seeing the exact results of your work. So you'd build something and then somebody would win, and the player would walk past you maybe a day later and say, hey, those wedges I got from you, they were absolutely class. They're at least half of that win out there was your wedges. And this obviously made me realize that I was doing the right thing. So what that then made me think about, hey, what if we brought this service to the normal golfer? So what if the normal golfer would get clubs built for them? Would we see the same kind of gains? And the reality of it was we did. So it was a bit like taking a very high-end professional side of things and bringing it to the amateur. And what we found was that it really made a big difference.
Brilliant. So actually that brings me on to my next question. Is I was going to ask like what types of golfers can benefit from using foregolf, but it sounds very much anyone from a complete noob to the sport to a professional
Yeah, so the fitting side that we use is not a fit to sell. Okay, so this is a heavy processed situation. So we're not in there trying to say to you got to buy brand new sets of clubs or full sets of clubs. We go in there and find out the right type of clubs for you. So you might end up coming to us, and you might end up getting, half a set as such, because that's all that you really need.
If you don't need 4 of the irons, you're not going to give 4 of the irons.
No, and we're governed by the truth because we've been doing it for so long. The reputation's really strong, so we don't want to have anything that gets in the way of that. So this isn't a sales process. This is a person process, okay? So the type of golfer that will really benefit from this actually is somebody who is a fairly mid to high handicap, because they'll see, if you're using a standard set of clubs, for instance, if you're listening to this and you play golf and you're a mid to high handicapper and you've never been fitted, you will see a benefit of about 4 to 5 shots off your handicap. That's the average.
Wow.
If you're a really low handicap golfer and you're listening to this podcast and you haven't been fitted and you haven't come see us, it's probably worth a lot more to you, because once the skill level gets really much better, then we become really important to be consistent at that level. Okay? And so one of the pros said to me, even if it's a half shot a round for me, that's huge. So the lower you get, the more finite.
If you're a pro, half a shot, it could be the difference between 40th and first.
Hey, listen, we talked about Formula One, exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like a second. It's like a quarter of a second, right, between first and fifth.
Which means nothing to someone who doesn't follow Formula One. But in Formula One, that costs like 10 million worth of development.
Exactly. So golf is exactly the same. The closer you get to being really good, the margins get really tight, which we make a bigger difference. But if you're mid to high handicapper, huge difference. Actually, ladies come and see us a lot because there's very little for female golfers in the market. And so we treat them exactly the same as we would anybody. So you're not rated because you're a high handicapper because you're female. It's exactly the same process, and you get exactly what you need every time.
And what is that process?
Yeah, so it involves a measuring type process. So if you were going to go in and get it measured for a suit, it'd be kind of getting your arm length, your body length, your trunk size, these kind of things. It's basically done hitting golf balls. So we're a partner with TrackMan. And TrackMan is a radar-based tracking device which tracks the golf ball in the air, and we then read the information backwards. So we reverse engineer back from the golf ball flight into what the golfer has done, take measurements based on the size and shape that you are, and then we match you with the best equipment from all the different brands. So it's an agnostic process that matches you to the right shaft, the right brand, the right loft, the right make, the right design, all through measurement of that ball flight. And then we very uniquely hand build or handcraft the clubs on site in our workshop. So we're the only company in Ireland that has a license to build clubs for all the brands, and we build the clubs on site in our own workshop, which means our tolerances are really tight, so that your measuring service is exactly matched to your building service, which means the clubs then work absolutely, because there are tolerances within the manufacturers if you go somewhere else and buy them like off the shelf or from a different store.
What kind of challenges did you face setting up the company and growing it and keeping it in business for 20 plus odd years?
Hey, listen, when you're from Ireland, okay, they tend not to take you seriously, right? Because small country,
market's not massive.
The paddies, good time guys. And we struggled a long time to get that sort of recognition. One of the things I did was I went and worked on tour when I was very young. That gave me a lot of clout early on. And then as I moved through the business, the challenges were more about finding the right people, first of all, which is why we used the family, because these people were vested in the business. They were passionate about what we did. But the big thing was being taken seriously on a broader scale. In 2010, then I was voted as the world number 1 at club making.
Wow.
And I was the first Irishman in golf to be world number 1. I beat Rory by about, I think it was a couple of months. He was world number 1 in playing. I was world number 1 in club making in the same year.
Have you ever let him live that down?
I remind him every now and again. But and then in 2015, I was tasked to come up with a fitting program for Augusta National, which is one of the most premier golf clubs in the world.
It's the most beautiful golf club,
most prestigious, right? And so they asked me for some help in 2015. That kind of then almost kind of gold stamped me. So the 2010 win and then the 2015 engagement meant that I was renowned as being one of the best in the world at what I did, right? So if they're coming to talk to me, and then I've got some, we've got tour players coming to talk to us. They were the biggest challenges, was to come up to be actually recognized as being very good at what you do. Okay. And then I think moving on then to the business is actually to stay going. So through recession, through COVID, through all these different challenges, are you strong enough to, go the distance?
And interesting you mentioned that, because obviously your process is, to actually physically measure someone and evaluate them in person. How did COVID affect that?
We had 7 months, 0 revenue.
Wow, ouch.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, and I'll be very straight, like if people are listening to this and think that, people who are successful in business, which we are, manage that situation. I didn't manage it well. I struggled a lot with it. I don't mind talking about it and saying it to people,
It's very unique to be open about that, so fair play
well,
for that.
Well, it is. I think it's important to talk about it because, the whole mental wellness side of things, I struggled with, if you're at 100 miles an hour for the best part of 15 years, you're at the very, very top of your game, and suddenly the whole thing gets stripped out from under you. I really struggled with how to process that. Thankfully, my wife Claire is phenomenally strong, and she was able to kind of manage me through that, and then always kind of keeping sight of my sister Jill as well, who kind of took control of a lot of the business things while I was kind of struggling to get my head around what does a man do when he can't do. So yeah, I found that really
a popular question that's been brought up since COVID in a lot of ways.
And to be honest with you, Sean, people got busy getting busy, and I couldn't find getting busy. I couldn't find the thing. And I did a lot of podcasts, I did a lot of talking, I did a lot of stuff in the US with some of my friends out there in Callaway and TaylorMade and stuff, but the actual day-to-day business, not being able to do that, kind of struggled with that. I'm still coming out there, still coming around to it, but I'm nearly there.
What maybe other than learning kind of how to manage that, what other kind of learnings did you take from that particularly difficult 7 months during COVID, 2020, 2021, that are kind of leading into 2023 and beyond?
Yeah, I guess it just kind of makes you, I guess one of the big things I'm noticing is to have to get back on the horse, right? So I used to travel a lot, and I haven't traveled for 2 years, and I almost got a little bit opposed to traveling. I was like, I'm not interested in going anywhere now. I'm happy at home. Now I'm starting to see that I need to be out there because my job is global, and I need to get myself back out there. So I have I have a few different business trips coming up that I'm kind of looking forward to getting back on there. The challenge for me was to actually get my head bent around back into that whole positive, move forward, let's go, let's drive it on, and the passion's still there, but it probably wasn't as bright. So I'm almost relearning the important things, right? And then obviously being able to connect with the family, which I'd never done before for so long. It's given me also a couple of different, I guess, focuses on what's important.
Other than just work.
And I'm kind of rounding onto my 50s this year, right? So these things are becoming more and more important. And I guess sometimes I was so focused on the journey and the business that I was missing things like my boys growing up. And I turned around, one of my lads is 18. And I'm thinking, God, he's a man.
When that happened?
I missed all that. He went into his room and came out a man, you know. So being connected with the family has been really important for me. And then just finding this new, I guess, love of it again is something that I'm been working on for the last couple of months.
Foregolf obviously started several years ago. How did it start? Obviously, you've mentioned big suppliers like, for example, Callaway. How did it start versus how has it evolved in terms of maybe even how you changed the service with the tracking and stuff like that? How do you continuously develop what you offer? Are you planning to offer any new products and services through 2023 and beyond? Or how is the business continuously evolved in itself, other than you just being on the tour and going to Augusta and stuff like that?
Well, one of the big things we wanted to do was, so a lot of the big companies struggle with custom because it's big business operation trying to do something very specific for one person. Okay, so it's a bit like saying, here's a great example. So if you go to McDonald's and you suddenly decide you don't want lettuce on the chicken burger, it's like a 45-minute wait sometimes because somebody has to not put it on, so they have to actually follow it through. It's a complicated process when you get,
that one little change.
Custom one little change, right? So big business works really well when it's flowing through. So building sets, standard sets is really easy for golf companies. It's just a repetitive motion, get them out. When you have to do something custom, it's complicated because it has to be, broken down. Individuals have to build for individuals. And we found that the tolerances were a bit too broad for us. What I liked, I was used to the tour process where you meet a player, build a club, give the players of the club, or give the player the club, and he performs. I was used to that. I wasn't used to this big box stuff. So we went to the company and said, hey, listen, you do a great job. We love your stuff. You design brilliant product, but hey, custom's not really your thing. Can you give us a license so that we can build the stuff the way we want to build it, and we can offer maybe a broader selection of different shafts and maybe do things a little differently, kind of like a tour experience, but for the public? And they were like, no. And the Americans are real difficult about stuff like giving up control about, manufacturing and what happens and the how. And I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And a lot of it through personal relationships, I managed to get to the CEOs and said, look, guys, this is what we want to do. and I rewrote the formula. We were the first business in the world to get component outside of the factories for a lot of the golf companies.
Wow. So how much is the business? How much business do you do abroad then, other than just in Ireland?
We do a lot.
Well, I won't ask for the actual physical number,
but we had that's where GI comes into this whole conversation, because what we wanted to make sure was that if we were representing abroad with big brands like Callaway or TaylorMade or Titleist, that it was recognized that we were still Irish. And still guaranteed Irish, that the rubber stamping of who we were was so important on the global stage. I didn't want people in California getting their clubs and saying, where did these come from, or where is Derek from, or what's it about? No, we're one of the biggest promoters of Ireland Inc. when we're traveling.
You do a lot of work with like the Seamus Power, for example.
Seamus was a client in the early days. I've known him since he was 14 years of age. We built him his first set of golf clubs, and we've been supporting him both, I guess, information-wise, fitting-wise, club-wise, information-wise, but also friendship-wise. So we're now buddies. I'd like to think we were. But
if you're listening, Seamus, you can confirm or deny in the comments.
Yeah, in the comments, Shay. But himself and his caddy, Simon, are Irish guys. Seamus is from West Waterford. Simon's from Cork, and they have foregolf on the golf bag. So we were represented around the world with Seamus, and very, very, very proud to be, I guess, allowed on his journey, right? And that's one of the great things in Irish sport. When you get a part of the journey, it's brilliant to be a part of it. But he has an Irish flag on there. He has us on there. So we wanted to make sure that when we were representing as a brand, we're seen as being Irish. It's really important for us. And be it with Seamus, be it on our YouTube channel, be it wherever that might be, being Irish and having GI on stuff is quite important to us.
And actually, talk to us about your YouTube channel, because you've the best part of 1 million views.
Yeah,
that's incredible. Where did that idea come from? Is that just like someone just put a camera in your face one day?
I wish it was. And Sean, yourself and Oisin here who do all the social stuff and podcasts, you guys know how this is the growth area, right? And people are looking for information, and they're looking for people that are qualified to give information. My sister Jill came to me about 4 years ago and said to me, we're going to have to do a YouTube channel. I said, there's no chance. She said, no. She said, you need to give away your information for free. I said, no, I don't like any part of that sentence, and I certainly don't like the end of it. Where
put it like
free.
that, I wouldn't like it.
Right? Sean, it was just like saying, why don't we just give away our secret sauce? She said, no. She says, you have so much experience, you have so much knowledge, you have so much information that you need to be sharing. But more to the point, it shows that you are the expert, the real expert in your field. And then we met with a few people up in Google and in YouTube, and they were like, no, absolutely. We want you on the platform, because unlike a lot of, people that go onto the platform that are just, I guess you could call them amateurs, if that's the right word, who are just talking about a thing that they're interested in. The girl in YouTube said, you're a real expert. You're like, your stuff front backwards. She said, you got to do a channel. I said, no, I'm not doing it. And then my sister said, come on, let's do it. And then I said, okay, fine, let's do it. And a bit like you, she said, okay, well, listen, if we're going to do this right. So we need proper cameras, we need lighting. And I'm going, whoa. Now, so we've gone from, you need to give this stuff away for free.
So you need to spend money on it.
Right. And I'm going, none of this is adding up for me, right? None of this, okay? Because I'm thinking like an old style businessman, right? So
how does this benefit the business in the long term?
I couldn't do the maths, Sean. Like I just couldn't. I was like, this is crazy. Anyway, she starts the channel. The first 3 or 4 videos are nasty. And then I do a lot of reflection on some of the videos going backwards and how can we improve them. The last video we put out about 2 weeks ago. So the channel's Foregolf Custom on YouTube.
Plug, and we'll put a link to it in the description below.
Do.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had like 4,000 views in less than 2 days. We have over 1 million views on the channel. In the last 20 days, we had 600 hours of view time on the channel. And would you believe nearly half of our views are in the US?
I would actually. From everything, if I'd have asked you this at the start, then no, there's no way I would have believed that. But talking about being at like the Augusta National, then I'd absolutely believe that.
I probably think that it's the accent in the US.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah, because it's a bit like somebody said to me recently. If you're calling into a call center in the UK, they have the call centers all in Newcastle because everyone loves the Geordie accent. I think it's a lot to do with the US. Well, as I heard. Okay, so I'm going to go with that because it leads into the story, right? So they said that the US just love the Irish accent, and then obviously we're good at it. We know what we're talking about. We try and keep the videos under 10 minutes, although the girl in YouTube said I need to keep them under 6.
She said you need to go under 6.
Yeah, she said
okay.
there's a golden number there between 5 and 6 minutes.
Okay.
So we may look at doing shorts, which I think might be a cool idea. But look, I actually think that, you know, the search algorithms within YouTube are now probably more important than your website.
100% they are. Yeah.
Right.
It's where everyone goes just for facts and information.
Right. And I think, so in hindsight, my sister was 100% right. And now actually we used to do 2 a month. We had to pull it back to 1 a month just because we were so busy in the last kind of couple of years, because when we came back from COVID, we had 387 people sitting waiting to see us when we opened back up. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a nice problem to have. It probably didn't feel like it at the time.
If you couple that with poor supply chain, struggle to get product, I literally had to call in every favor I ever had in the world to get stuff to us. We managed it. We got through all the people. We got them all boxed off. But it was complicated. But YouTube is the way forward. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're in business, you need to get into YouTube. If you're an expert in your field.
But if you're watching this episode on YouTube, be sure to go check out the Foregolf YouTube channel as well.
Foregolf Custom. You're into golf clubs and equipment. You'll find some really cool, very different information. The information that's on there, reason it works so well is because we talk about how we're fitting with the club. So it's not necessarily about the technology that's in it, because everybody talks about that because it's in the press release. We talk about
a lot of people probably wouldn't even understand that anyway.
Correct. We're more talking about who's liking this club, where we're using it, what sort of ball flight it's getting, stuff that's more relatable to golfers.
And things that they'd actually understand.
I think so, yeah. And that's probably where we're putting it out there, is that information is very valid and people can actually figure out, I need that head rather than that. Because if you get a driver, there could be 4 different heads.
Yeah.
And you have no idea which head you're supposed
probably
to
helps for more like the amateur market as well. Like I know myself, like I like golf. I love watching golf especially. And I have played. I am no golfer, but I do have a set of golf clubs which my mum bought me for my 18th birthday. Yeah. It's literally a beginner's golf club set. Yeah. And I know it's rubbish, but I only play a couple of times a year. But if I do eventually want to take it up a little bit more seriously, I feel like the information on your YouTube channel would stick more in my head than it would if you said, and this is the technology of how all this no, golf's too scary.
Yeah. It's to try and make that information a little bit more accessible, but also easier to understand. So yes, that's exactly what it does.
Brilliant. I want to bring it on to sustainability for a minute, and anyone watching on YouTube will see our pillars of sustainability here. How has that kind of played a role in Foregolf? Have your kind of approaches to sustainability or sustainable methods changed over time from where you started to where you are now?
Yeah, I guess, in today's world, there's a lot more focus on sustainability. It's very much in the media, so you're not bombarded is the wrong word, but you certainly are more aware because of how it's been communicated. Your footprint, how we need to make changes, because it's not getting any better, it's getting worse. So if we don't make changes, it's going to be worse and worse. Not necessarily for our kids, but certainly our kids' are going to be faced with different problems that we've created. So from us, we're a small business, okay, so we don't have a massive footprint, but I am more aware of unnecessary travel, for instance. When I say unnecessary, I mean, sometimes I would make a trip, say to the States, and I'd go to an event, and then I might not have an event for 2 weeks, and then I'd fly home again, and then I'd fly back out again. And now I'm thinking, no, let's group these events together. So I'm on Seamus's schedule. So he's like, well, I'm going to be there. Okay, well, I'll go there, and then I'll go home, and then I'll come back out, and we'll do there and there. And then it's much easier that way.
It's also one round flight rather than 4 over the same space of time.
And the reality of it is, you just need to be more organized in how you're doing it, rather than just saying, I'll just book a flight. It's ridiculous. Now, the fact that I haven't been traveling, I'm obviously, cut back on a lot of the flights for me. So for that, it's much better. But I don't make unnecessary trips that I could maybe do by Zoom. So if I don't need to travel all the way to the UK, I'll just have the lads come onto a call. I don't need to be there in person if I don't need to be there, right? The other thing we did was the solvent we use for grips, okay? So normally they use a petrol-based solvent, so a white spirits, okay? So if you're putting a grip on, you'll put the double-sided sticky tape on the shaft, and then you'll put the rubber bit over the sticky tape, but you'll use a lubricant or a solvent to do that, and mostly it's white spirits. Now, white spirits is a horrible product to be using because it's flammable, number one, but also
stinks.
And it's not a good feel for it. It also takes a long time to dry, funnily enough, so you can't really use the grip for an hour or two after. Anyway, we found a company in the US called Brampton, and they make an ecological safe solvent that you can use, and it's completely safe to the environment. So if it goes down the drain, it's completely safe. It's not flammable, number one, which is great. But what we did was, as well, is we had a friend of mine in Japan who makes all of our specialized equipment for measuring the golf clubs, build us this grips unit that reuses the solvent. So it goes down into a pan. There's a hose goes around, and it puts it back into the system again. So it's a constant reuse. So you pour it in, and then you keep using it, right? So we cut down on that, and if you do a couple of 100 grips a week, that's a lot of solvent, difference. Right? So that's a massive difference. The other thing we started to do was we started to reuse boxes, so repurpose the box. So if a box comes in for shafts, somebody wants it shipped, we ship it out using the same box, and we'll put a note in there saying, hope you don't mind getting a box to get a second run at life. And that's what we started doing, that which has been kind of fun, because guys have been taking pictures of the boxes that we send out shafts and getting their golf and feel it was hilarious. The other thing we do is because we build clubs on site, we're very different than the marketplace. So most of the, I guess 90% of the marketplace is retail, so sales, so they'll sell new. But because we have a workshop, we can rebuild. So for instance, if you had a set of clubs that you bought maybe a year or two ago, but they weren't quite right, we can rebuild those. So we repurpose a lot of stuff. So, hey,
so if I came into you with my driver, I said, that head's not quite right, put another head on it. Absolutely. You might take the old head and repurpose it. It might be right for someone else. To
a point, but more so, you'll come with the head and we'll actually rebuild it with the shaft. And and then we give you back the shaft, and you can sell the shaft on rather than just get rid of it and put it in the shed. What a lot of people do. You go into the shed, there's all these golf clubs. We can rebuild. Because we build, we can rebuild.
Very good.
And that's a big part of it as well, because I guess the refitting side of the business has become very popular, because a lot of guys, have bought clubs off the cuff in the last 2 years after COVID. They went, I need to buy something. I'm buying anything. That'll do me. And then realizing, actually, this isn't quite working for me. I need to go get some advice on this where I go. And if they go somewhere else, if they go somewhere else, they'll end up saying, oh, you bought the wrong club, put it away, buy again. Whereas we would actually try and rebuild a lot of those.
Very good. And it's some really great points there. And the reason I do like to bring that up is because the sustainability point of view kind of applies to everyone. It doesn't just have to be, oh, well, our packaging doesn't have any packaging on it. We just hand you the thing, and so it doesn't have to be that at all. But it could apply to everyone, any small business at all, small, large, massive. It doesn't matter who your business are. Tiny little changes that you could make probably save you a lot of money as well. On the flip side,
well, it does, because like the simple thing like packing. So we'll get shafts in that'll have foam, they'll have
everything,
paper.
Yeah.
We put that into a big bin in workshop, and then that's been used then again for repacking again. So why would I go buying €50 worth of repacking material when I'm getting it for free anyway, and I'm using it again? So it makes sense. So we would do a lot of that.
Yeah.
The other big thing we do as well is we used to have people come to us obviously to get new custom clubs, but have their old clubs that they were older clubs that they didn't really need anymore. They had no one else to give them to. They were kind of gathering dust. So we partnered with a guy in Dublin who buys second-hand equipment to sell on the internet.
Very good. So you're literally giving clubs a new life.
100%.
So for a beginner like myself, I could get myself what to me would be a phenomenally increased the quality of golf club versus what I use now, which is rubbish.
not have to keep the set that you got when you were 18.
You
could. So we send you a link when you come to us. The link goes out, and then you contact Graham. He does a deal with you. He sends a box to your house, picks up the club, sends it, and wires you the money.
Very good.
So
clever idea. Yeah.
Well, that kind of stuff just meant that because we've no market for it, because if you come to us, you're not looking for a second-hand set of old clubs.
Brand new,
You're looking for brand new custom, but it meant that you weren't getting stuck with your old clubs. What we were finding is guys are going, oh, actually, I have a load of clubs in the shed as well. I'll get rid of those as well. And so all of a sudden, then Graham has a full-time business. We're then providing a service for our customers, but their clubs are getting reused and put back into the industry.
Very good. Very, very good. Lastly then, what's on the cards for 2023? Any new projects, any new events that you might be going to that are going to add some new features or some new products to foregolf for 2023 and beyond? Yeah,
well, the big PGA show is in Orlando right now, but fortunately we're at a slightly different level in that we've tested all the new equipment a couple of months ago because we're kind of special. And so the company sent us the stuff to have a look at early. So we're shooting a lot of video content at the moment for our channel for all the new product all launches kind of the end of January, start of February. So it's a busy time for us right now. Just getting our heads around all the new stuff, and then all the new stuff will start arriving. Yeah, I have a couple of gigs in the US that I'm going to travel out to do a bit of business out there. I'm going to the Masters again this year at Augusta. I know, I've done 10 in a row.
Oh, I'm even more jealous now.
I know. I've been very lucky.
That's the dream.
And the golf club look after us very well out there, and the pros out there look after us really well to bring us out and look after us. But we'll do some biz out there, primarily because everybody's there that week. So I'll definitely be a lot more engaged. I went last year, but it was so COVID heavy. It was difficult to do anything. So this year will be the first that's a little bit better. So I'm going out there.
Very good.
And also up on our social media. So a lot more content going out there for people to get in touch with us and see what we do and ask those questions.
Brilliant. Well, we look forward to all of it. We will share as much of it as we possibly can across the GI network.
Thank you, Sean.
And that's a great note to end on. Derek from foregolf, thank you very, very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Sean, and thanks to everybody at GI for doing a great job.
Thanks very much. If you would like to learn more about foregolf, we will leave a link to their website and their YouTube channel in the show notes below. Thank you all, as always, very much for listening. Don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you are listening and leave a review if you did like the episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks again.
The Guaranteed Irish Business Podcast, sponsored by FBD Insurance, Ireland's largest homegrown insurer. Support. It's what we do.